The reassignment. Lieutenant Vri'Xol clicked his mandibles anxiously as he reread the message for the third time. From Galactic Command Logistics Division. To Lieutenant Vri'Xol, 3rd Reconnaissance Wing. Subject: reassignment. Body: congratulations, Lieutenant. You're being transferred to the humans. The message was as baffling as it was brief. He blinked twice, once for each compound eye, hoping it was an error. Perhaps a misfiled personnel directive or a bureaucratic prank. But the words remained the same, glowing a cool cyan on his display screen. Transferred to the humans. He recoiled instinctively from the idea. Among Tharaxians, the humans were whispered about in the same tone one used for chemical accidents. Fascinating, but likely to result in property damage and existential regret. Unpredictable, emotionally unstable, loud. Their military culture was infamous throughout the Galactic Alliance. Disorganized, impulsive, yet maddeningly effective. He reported to Logistics Command immediately, hoping for clarification or, ideally, a swift reversal. Instead, he found himself face-to-face with General Threx, the cold-blooded, stone-eyed reptilian head of personnel reassignment. "You requested an audience, Lieutenant," Threx rasped without looking up from his datapad. "Yes, General. I believe there's been a misallocation. I was reassigned to human forces. Surely that's an error." Threx finally met his gaze. "It is no error. I must protest. My service record is impeccable. I have not committed any offense deserving of disciplinary reassignment." "This isn't punishment," Threx said. "It's a strategic initiative. Integration protocol. You're to serve as liaison and combat liaison with the human fleet element on Havoc Spear." Vri'Xol froze. "Havoc Spear? That destroyer's casualty rate is classified," Threx cut in. "You'll board within 24 cycles. Dismissed. No ceremony. No appeal. Just orders." The shuttle that ferried him to the Havoc Spear was small, crammed with equipment, and smelled faintly of recycled sweat. The human pilot whistled tunelessly the entire flight. Docking clamps engaged with a thunk. The airlock hissed open. Noise hit Vri'Xol first. Not weapon fire. Worse, laughter, shouting, music. The corridor pulsed with kinetic chaos. Pipes lined the walls haphazardly. Paint peeled in places. Human engineering. He stepped out and was immediately slapped on the carapace. Hard. By a burly figure in a grease-stained uniform. "Welcome to the madhouse," the human grinned. "Name's Jenkins. Or Brick. Or Trash Fire. Depends on who you ask. You must be the bug." "Lieutenant Vri'Xol," he corrected stiffly. "Sure thing, Vri'Zy." He was escorted through the ship, passing rows of humans sparring, joking, eating, or sleeping, often doing more than one at a time. There was no formality, no posted duty schedules, no uniformity of attire. Just activity. Chaos. But it was directed chaos. He was led to the bridge, where a scar-faced man in a sleeveless jacket leaned over a glowing tactical map. "Commander Halloran." "So you're the new addition," Halloran said, not looking up. "Tharaxian, right? Mind reader with 6 hearts and a fondness for rules." "That is an oversimplification. Everything is at first." Vri'Xol stood silently. Halloran finally looked up. "Listen, Lieutenant. We don't do things by the book here. The book gets people killed. Out here, we improvise. We adapt. You follow orders when they make sense. You question them when they don't. You good with that? That is highly irregular." "Yeah," Halloran said, grinning. "So are we." Later that cycle, Vri'Xol found himself in the ship's mess hall, alone in a corner with a nutrient pack. Around him, humans swapped stories of close calls and stupid decisions that somehow saved entire platoons. He heard terms like combat barbecue, explosive diplomacy, and emergency duct tape resuscitation. One story ended with roaring laughter and a toast. "To the spear, may she shake the stars." Vri'Xol sipped his bland nutrient gel. He didn't understand them, but he was beginning to suspect they wanted it that way. His datapad buzzed. A new message. From unknown. "Welcome aboard, Bug Boy. Try not to die your first week. We've got bets riding on you. Kilovolt." He looked around. A woman across the room raised a metal mug and winked. Sergeant Kara Vega. He sighed. So this was it. His reassignment. To the humans. Learning the human way. Lieutenant Vri'Xol was not prepared for morning combat drills. Not because of the physical strain. His Tharaxian physiology allowed for rapid reaction speed and superior stamina. No, what unsettled him was the lack of structure. The training room resembled a weapons depot struck by a meteor and then reassembled by lunatics. Equipment of every kind lay scattered. Human ballistics, alien plasma rifles, improvised explosives made for what Vri'Xol was sure were kitchen components. One wall displayed graffiti that read, "If it works, it flies." Sergeant Kara Vega, the woman who had sent him the message the previous cycle, was leading the morning session. She wore a sleeveless training shirt, fingerless gloves, and a grin that suggested mischief more than authority. "All right, meat bags and bug brothers," she barked. "Today's lesson, creative problem-solving under fire." Vri'Xol raised one claw. "Shouldn't we begin with an outline of objectives, resources, and constraints?" Vega smirked. "Sure. Objective, don't die. Resources, whatever's in the box. Constraints, 10 seconds." She gestured to a crate filled with random junk, old wires, toolkits, foam tubing, a broken coffee machine. Then she slapped a red button, and an alarm blared. Scenario initiated. Vega shouted. The bridge is breached. Oxygen venting. Hull pressure collapsing. Solve it. Vri'Xol hesitated, staring at the mess, but the humans around him had already launched into action. One grabbed tubing to simulate a makeshift seal. Another connected power cells to arc weld bulkhead reinforcements. Vega dove into the junk pile and emerged triumphantly holding a spatula. "Why do you need that?" Vri'Xol asked, bewildered. "To flip Fate's pancakes," she grinned. It was absurd. It was inefficient. It was unthinkable by Tharaxian military standards. And yet, it worked. 10 simulated minutes later, their improvised response had sealed a mock breach and rerouted power through a jury-rigged control panel involving coat hangers and old socks. "You see, Lieutenant," Vega said, patting his shoulder with an oily glove. "Combat's not a clean test. It's a trash fire, and we thrive in trash fires." After training, Vri'Xol retreated to his quarters, frustrated and confused. He began to document everything. Human chain of command anomalies, equipment disarray, tactical violations. But the more he tried to categorize, the more the system resisted definition. That night, he reviewed battle footage from the humans' last engagement against the coral fleets. They had taken triple the casualties of the other species, but they had won. The footage showed brutal close-quarters combat, wild feints, and last-minute reinforcements made possible by split-second gut decisions. It wasn't discipline that saved them. It was something messier, wilder, instinctive. 3 days later, Vri'Xol found himself on the lower decks, watching Sergeant Vega play a game she called Tactical Chicken. It involved hiding in an unlit maintenance shaft with a stun pistol, waiting to ambush another crew member. Loser bought the winner's synth coffee. Vri'Xol did not understand the point. "You think too much, Bugsy," Vega told him after zapping a grumpy-looking engineer. "You ever just feel something? I'm trained to suppress emotional bias." Sure. That's what your instructors taught you. But let me ask, you ever been scared in combat?" Vri'Xol hesitated. "Yes." "Then you're halfway human already." The next morning, the ship dropped out of FTL. An alert echoed through the halls. Unscheduled course correction. Emergency response protocol initiated. Vri'Xol rushed to the bridge. Halloran stood at the center, arms crossed. "Distress signal from a refugee freighter," the commander said. "Vorisk raiders on approach. 2 hours out. Are we authorized to engage?" Vri'Xol asked. Halloran shook his head. "No. Alliance Command says wait for a task force." "Then what?" "We're not waiting." Vri'Xol blinked. "You're violating command directive." Halloran grinned. "Directive's a suggestion. Saving lives is mandatory." Vri'Xol's protest caught in his throat. That was the moment it clicked. Humans weren't reckless because they didn't know the rules. They were reckless because they knew which ones matter more. That night, Vega handed him a mug. "Rumor says you didn't squeal when Halloran broke command." I am reevaluating my assumptions. She raised her cup to the spear. May she fly into hell and come back with souvenirs. He raised his in return. Into your pancakes of fate. She grinned. He smiled, a small, confused one, but it was real. The enemy at the gates. The Havoc spear arrived in orbit above Gorin, 5 with its engines hot and weapons primed. Below, the mining colony burned. Vri'Xol stood on the bridge, transfixed by the carnage displayed on the holomap. The Vorisk hive had descended without warning. Thousands of writhing bioforms swarming over outposts, tunnels, and comm stations. Colonists were being overrun. Distress beacons flickered and died in real time. We're the only ones close enough to respond, Commander Halloran growled, his fingers drumming against the console. Fleet backups 4 hours out. Sergeant Vega leaned in. If we wait, we're picking through a graveyard. Vri'Xol hesitated. We are outnumbered 20-1. The Vorisk have psionic resistance. Standard tactics are ineffective. Halloran turned to him. Good thing we're not standard. The commander pointed to a colony tunnel junction highlighted in red. That's their forward node. Knock it out, and they'll lose coordination. Vri'Xol leaned closer. A direct assault would be suicidal. We're not going in loud, Vegas said. We're going in clever. The plan was madness, which meant, naturally, it was human. Vri'Xol was to pose as a diplomatic envoy, an obvious, juicy target for the Vorisk. The humans would spread false transmissions about an attempted negotiation, baiting the hive into sending a strike team to capture him. The moment they committed, the Havoc spear would drop a kill team behind enemy lines to destroy the node. Vri'Xol reviewed the plan 3 times, scanning for logic gaps. All he found was intent. You're asking me to volunteer as prey. Prey with a plasma beacon and emergency armor, Vegas said, tightening his harness. Besides, we'll be watching your back. That didn't reassure him, but he agreed. Hours later, Vri'Xol stood alone on a scorched plateau near the colony's edge, his signal broadcasting wideband. The air reeked of sulfur and ash. Shadows moved in the smoke. Then they came. Vorisk, chitinous, spider-limbed horrors with razor-lined maws and glowing eyes. They hissed, forming a ring around him, waiting for the signal to strike. Vri'Xol's second heart raced. He clutched the beacon tightly. 5 seconds. The ground shook, subtle at first, then violent. From the ridge, the humans arrived like a thunderstorm. Gunships screamed overhead. Plasma rounds lit the sky. Drop pods slammed into the dirt, ejecting soldiers mid-run. Halloran led the charge with a grenade launcher. Vega was right behind him, sliding under a Vorisk swipe and gutting the creature with a thermoblade. The node was close, buried beneath the hill. The team moved fast, carving a path through the chaos. Vri'Xol followed instinctively, plasma rifle clutched in trembling claws. When a Vorisk lunged from the flank, he fired reflexively, his shot striking true. They reached the entrance to the node. Vega planted charges while Halloran covered the rear. Then a shriek tore through the air. The Vorisk queen. She towered above the hill, covered in armored plating, psychic waves rippling around her. The humans faltered, only briefly, but it was enough. She charged. Vri'Xol stepped forward. With no thought, he grabbed the pulse cannon from a fallen Marine and fired it point-blank into the Queen's eye. She reeled, just as Vega triggered the detonators. The ground exploded. The node collapsed into itself, taking the Queen and her swarm with it. Silence followed. Then cheers. Halloran clasped Vri'Xol's shoulder. Hell of a shot. Vega grinned, bloodied but alive. Look at you, bug boy, learning the dance. Vri'Xol's hands trembled. He had killed before, but never like this. Not in chaos. Not in sync with chaos. And never to protect someone. Later, on the spear, medics tended to the wounded while the crew celebrated. Vri'Xol sat alone on a cargo crate, staring at the floor. Vega approached, holding 2 mugs of synth coffee. She handed him one. You good? I am processing. She nodded. First taste of real fire changes you. He looked at her. You trusted me. She shrugged. Didn't have to. You acted. That's enough. They sat in silence for a while. Outside the viewport, The wreckage of the Vorsk fleet drifted in orbit like shattered teeth. And below, the colony lived. Because humans didn't wait. They moved. The choice. 2 weeks after Gorin 5, the Havoc spear floated in low orbit above a peaceful green moon. Officially, the ship was undergoing systems recalibration. Unofficially, it was licking its wounds and hiding from high command. Vri'Xol stood before the central communication terminal, claws clasped neatly behind his back. On screen, Admiral Chax of the Tharaxian High Assembly regarded him with narrow, insectoid eyes. "You have been difficult to contact, Lieutenant." "My role was complicated," Vri'Xol replied carefully. "Commander Halloran's unit is unconventional. That's putting it mildly. Their actions on Gorin 5 violated 6 engagement protocols and 17 strategic command rules. But they succeeded." Admiral Chax's wings flicked in annoyance. "Victory without order is still a failure in principle. We value structure for a reason." Vri'Xol hesitated. "Permission to speak freely?" Chax raised an eye ridge. "Granted. I believe the humans' methods, though chaotic, reflect an adaptive strength. They make mistakes, many, but they learn faster. They fail loudly, but recover harder. They're dangerous precisely because they're flexible, and they care deeply, irrationally even, about those under their protection." Chax narrowed his gaze. "You sound affected." "I am." There was silence. Then, "Return to the Tharaxian fleet for debriefing. Your reassignment is concluded." Vri'Xol blinked. "I see." The call ended. He found Halloran in the armory, disassembling a railgun while humming off-key. "So, they're pulling you back?" the commander asked without turning. "Yes. Effective immediately." Halloran nodded. "Can't say I'm surprised. We don't play nice with central command types." Vri'Xol hesitated, watching him work. "Do you regret it?" "Going off script. Every time," Halloran said. "But not for the reasons you think." He stood, wiping his hands. "I don't like the weight that comes with command. I like what comes after. The lives we save. The scars we earn. That's the job." Vri'Xol lowered his voice. "They called your victories failures. Then they can keep their medals. We keep our people." Vega found him later, packing his things. "Seriously? That's it? You just walking off the spear after all this?" "I don't have a choice," he replied. She folded her arms. "Bull, you always have a choice, even when it's a terrible one." He paused. "They'll court-martial me. Only if you care about what they think more than what you've seen." She stepped closer. "You're one of us now, Vri. You bled with us. You stood with us. And you fought like hell for people you didn't know." "I don't belong," he whispered. "You do. That's the problem. You just haven't admitted it yet." His shuttle was scheduled for launch at 0300. Vri'Xol sat in his quarters, a bag at his feet and a data slate in his hands. He'd written his report already, 10 pages of observations, behavior charts, strategic deviations. It was complete, but he hadn't submitted it. Instead, he sat there, replaying the sounds from Gorin 5, the chaos of gunfire, the bark commands, the unspoken rhythm of trust in the heat of battle. He remembered Halloran shielding a downed Marine with his own body, Vega dragging him from a collapsing corridor, laughing even as debris rained around them. And he remembered his own hands, steady, not trembling, as he fired into the eyes of a charging monster to protect those beside him. He stood up, walked to the terminal, and deleted the report. When the shuttle bay doors opened, Halloran and Vega were already there. Halloran raised an eyebrow. "Didn't expect a goodbye party?" "Actually," Vri'Xol said, "I'm not going." Vega hooped. "Knew it. Knew you couldn't quit the madhouse. I submitted a request to remain on assignment. I also informed High Command that I consider integration with human forces a strategic imperative for Alliance survival." Halloran smirked. "That'll ruffle some carapaces. They'll likely reject it, possibly punish me." Vega tossed him a data tag. "Well, in the meantime, welcome to the Misfits." He caught it. The crew's insignia, etched in burnished metal, a broken spear wrapped in flames. "You sure you're ready?" Halloran asked. Vri'Xol looked them both in the eyes. "For once, I'm sure of everything." Outside, the Havoc spear powered up, engines glowing. A new mission awaited. And for the first time, Vri'Xol didn't feel like he was assigned to the humans. He had chosen them.